All right, so this is really chapter one, so to speak, of my mom's story. Overall, chapter one of my story, I guess you could speak, but we're starting with my mom and her history. So I think it's important to understand my family history because I think it will explain a lot about where I ended up, and I'm hoping that it also will help my siblings see where they ended up, especially my little brother. This is primarily for you because you would not read my blog. So you have to at least watch the videos, okay? All right, so we're starting with mom and kind of her history, and I think that helps. For at least for me, it helped me understand why my relationships were so tumultuous, understanding my family history on both my mom and my dad's side. So that's the reason for really looking at my mom's life. So there's a lot of things that I don't know about my mom. She really didn't talk a lot about herself and her childhood experiences. So I only got a sprinkle from her, but it was definitely more than my siblings got because I spent a lot more time with my mom. And I'll kind of explain a little bit as to why that was later on. My mom was an avid reader. She was the type of person that always had a book in her hands. She really loved sci-fi, horror books, thrillers, crime dramas. Like, she always had a Stephen King book, whatever the new one that was coming out. Like, my mom would be at the library getting that book. She really liked James Patterson too. She watched a lot of sci-fi channel movies, things of that sort. She was also into anime before anime was cool. Like, my mom was like very well read, is basically what I'm getting at. But she loved mystery. She loved drama. She loved kind of those thrillers. And it's kind of funny in a way that, like, a lot of ways, my mom is a mystery to me. Like, a lot of ways, her life is kind of more like a thriller and drama to me when I look back. So, a lot of things that she was reading, I'm assuming she was gravitating to them in some way because it represented her or something she could relate to. Yeah, I know she read a lot, so it's kind of interesting that now I'm writing about her in a sense. So I always wondered like how she would feel reading this reflection of her experience, if she would feel that it was accurate. But my mom passed away in 2014, so it's been well over a decade at this point. So I don't think I'll ever have an answer to that, but it's just kind of a curiosity to me. So what I know of my mom's experience is kind of fragments of very unspoken history. I spent a lot of time with my mom. My dad was very traditional in the sense that the boys did the yard work, car maintenance, kind of all of that house stuff. And then I spent a lot of time with my mom in like the kitchen, helping with like cooking, cleaning, and doing kind of housework. So that split made it so that while my dad was outside basically terrorizing my brothers, I had a little bit of time away from the fray, like with my mom one-on-one, in a somewhat safe space where she could tell me a little bit of her story. And because of that, it kind of made it so that a lot of the stuff my brothers didn't know. So that was part of the reason why I wrote the blog in the first place, is because I didn't realize they didn't know this. Like, I don't think they even knew like my mom's parents' names. Like, that's how fragmented our household was as far as information. Like, they don't even know who our grandparents are, essentially. So yeah, that's how separate things were. So here's what I recall of mom's kind of history. She grew up in a small town outside Shreveport, Louisiana. Her mom, my grandma, our grandma Nina, was a seamstress who made clothes. So she would often make outfits and dresses for mom. Grandpa Joe Sr., there is a Joe Jr., which is our uncle. Joe Sr., our grandfather, was a day laborer for the railroad. So he spent a lot of time outside of the house, like going to different job sites. So he wasn't, from what I understand, when my mom was little, he was not home a lot. My maternal grandma and grandpa, so Nina and Joe Sr., were dead before I was born. So I never got to meet either of them. My mom just had a picture of them on her desk at home. And so that was just really kind of all that I knew of them, was that picture. And I don't think I ever saw any other pictures of them other than those two. Like, there wasn't like, here's my photo album of me as a kid growing up. There was none of that. Like, those were really the only two pictures that I can recall that I've ever seen of my grandma and grandpa. And very interesting, this photo album, well, not album, this like frame that she had of them was two separate pictures. So it was a headshot of my grandpa and then a headshot of my grandma. They were not together in the picture. They were sitting separately for photos. So I think that's very important, because I think it also is very symbolic of the relationship that my grandma and grandpa had. So one of the stories that I remember Mom telling me was about Grandma Nina throwing Grandpa Joe Sr.'s clothes out in the yard and threatening to burn them and set them on fire. There was lots of arguments in the house from what I understood. Like, it sounded like Grandma and Grandpa were constantly fighting. And from what I gathered, it seemed like Grandpa drank a lot. I probably was an alcoholic, considering how he ended up passing away. Anyone who's experienced an alcoholic kind of knows the cycle that they go through, with very high highs, very low lows. And I also got the sense that Grandpa was also a ladies' man, and since he was out of the home a lot, probably was out on the town. That piece I don't know for sure. That's just kind of what I suspect. But for sure, I know he was a very heavy drinker. I don't really know anything about their love story. I don't know how they met. I don't know how they ended up together. My mom never talked about it in that sense of like, oh, grandpa and grandma, like romance, why they were married or anything of that sort. Like, never got any of that history, so I'm not really sure. But they had 10 kids, so I'm assuming that, something worked with them, that they were together long enough to have 10 children over time. But this is also a very different time where, women were expected to be in the household, raise kids, family, all of that. I don't know that divorce in the Black community at that time was really even an option. Grandma Nina did have a job. Like I said, she was a seamstress, so she made some income, but I would imagine not enough income to raise 10 children on her own. So I do know sometime when my mom was a teenager-ish or early teen, that Grandpa Joe Sr. got injured on the job and couldn't work. And I'm assuming at that point he spent more time at home, probably drinking, being miserable, unhappy, unhealthy, unwell, all of those things. And I got the sense that a lot of the fights were between grandpa and grandma, but my mom was obviously in that household. So even though her parents weren't necessarily, I didn't get the sense that she was like beaten or abused or any of that sort, but it definitely was not a healthy home environment for sure. I do suspect that Grandpa Joe Sr. probably was some sort of narcissistic traits. don't know, but I do know for sure that he was an alcoholic because he died from liver failure due to his alcoholism. So there definitely was something going on there. I haven't done too much research into alcoholics, but the little research that I have done just shows that if there's an alcoholic in the family, usually there's some serious kind of like emotional issues. And I also know that mom graduated early. So she finished a semester early from school. So I think she graduated when she was 17 so that she could actually leave and get out of the house and move away. I don't think she had a good relationship with Grandma Nina. I don't think they were very close. I don't know what happened to Grandma Nina. I suspect that she had some sort of heart issue and passed away from that. I could never confirm what happened to her. But I do know that they didn't have a good relationship because I heard from my dad years later that like they would go to family reunions for my mom and my mom would not talk to her mom. It would not even like greet her and acknowledge her. So that relationship was very strained. And I don't think she went to my mom's funeral. So yeah, I don't think she had a very happy childhood. Like she was 9 of 10, so it was her and her younger brother. By the time that she was a child, most of her siblings were grown and had left and were living other places. And I don't think they really like checked in on her, had such a really close relationship with all of them. So yeah, home life was not very great. I do also know that she learned how to cook afterwards, and that was one of the things that I spent a lot of time in the kitchen with her, learning how to cook. She would always like have me taste test for her and all of that. And I know she didn't learn how to cook from Grandma Nina because every recipe that mom cooked was something that she found on her own. Like she didn't have any family recipes. Like I don't think any of the recipes, any of the things that we cooked were things that grandma had cooked for her or anything of that sort. There was never talk of that. And I suspect that because I know at one point I had a class assignment where we were supposed to like share family recipes, and like my mom didn't have anything to share with me. Like there was no family recipes. And the reason for that, my mom told me, was that Grandma Nina didn't want my mom to learn how to cook and stealing her man. Now, that was really weird. I have no idea what the hell that meant, but obviously there was something going on there. Because what man was to be stolen by a child? Who knows? So I think there's some unanswered questions there, which I won't know, but that's part of this tale, right? So I'm gonna cut there because this one's getting really long, and then I'll continue with some of the family history for my mom in the next video.